Hi there, I'm Scott from Buy the Brush Miniatures, and today I'm going to show you how to start collecting Chaos Space Marines. Obviously first you're going to get the Codex. We're still on the old Codex because we've not got the update for these yet. Hopefully it comes soon because all the other Space Marines have 2 wounds now, and it's getting on. It's getting on now. We want our turn. Anyway, it's going to be slightly different. Obviously normally I go through 500, 1000, 2000, but this time we're going to start with 711, I think, because I'm going to recommend the Start Collecting set for this one because I actually think that it's such a good value for a patrol detachment with a lot of variety. It's pretty much, I think it's actually all of the Demonkin Chaos Space Marines that come in Shadow Spear. So I'll go through what you get in that now, and it's going to be your first 711 points in a patrol detachment. So the HQ you get in that is this Master of Possession. Good solid HQ, powerful Psyker. A lot to do with demons and various rules, which works well with everything else that you get in the box, so straight away you are actually getting a really nicely coordinated force. For the troops choice you get 10 Chaos Space Marines. Here I've just got 5 just so you can see everything a bit better, and that's pretty much the troops choice for Chaos Space Marines other than cultists. And yes, it's called Chaos Space Marines. That's just what they've decided to go for. The army is Chaos Space Marines, the unit is Chaos Space Marines. So this is it's a good troops choice because it's probably the best troops choice in the army, in my opinion. But yeah, so you'll get 10 Chaos Space Marines. The next thing you get are 2 Greater Possessed, and the good thing about these is that these can either be ran as 2 separate units, or instead they can just be in the same unit, and then they act independently regardless. They are characters, so it's just, I don't know, they are quite good, they're quite powerful, so I quite like them. They work really well with the Master of Possession. As I said, everything the box does, because anything with keyword demon does. But yeah, so you'll get 2 of these. The next thing you get will be 2 Obliterators, and these are just absolutely excellent. They just hit so hard, and yeah, no, these are a great unit. It's a heavy support option. Again, it could be 2 separate units, could be 1. These don't act independently if they're in the same unit, so bear that in mind depending on where you think you want them. I think they work better in the same unit just because of how hard hitting they are, and when you double that power up, it's just really, really good. They're best at shooting. The stats can be a bit random because literally random. It's a lot of dice rolling to figure out the strength, the AP, the damage, everything like that. But that's just the nature of the unit, and it is kind of part of what makes them so good. So the next thing you get in the box is your first demon engine. It's going to be a Venom Crawler, and it's very decent in shooting. It's got these 2 little guns that really don't look as good as they're supposed to be, and it's also good in close combat, which is a bonus. Yeah, it's a good solid sort of first demon engine. So that is your first 711 points, roughly. I think that should be about right, but now we're going to go into working that up to about 1000 points. The next thing we're going to do is upgrade the patrol detachment to a battalion detachment, and in that step we're pretty much just going to fill the slots with basically the decent units we need. The Master of Possession is obviously staying, but his role as leader is going to switch over to this Chaos Lord, who you're going to add. That's because the Chaos Lords make they pair better with Warlord traits and stuff like that. They give buffs to everything around them, whereas the Master of Possession is only working really well with demon units. So get yourself a Chaos Lord, any kind of Chaos Lord. This is just the standard. It's actually the one from Blackstone Fortress. It's Obsidious Mallex, which for some reason they've decided to use as the actual kit for Chaos Lords, which I'm not really a fan of. Next, you're going to need more Chaos Space Marines. Again, you're going to get 10, but I'm just showing you 5. Just get more Chaos Space Marines because you want to fill in them troops choices, capture objectives, and just get that board dominance as much as you can. Finally, you could add more Chaos Space Marines, but for the sake of sort of points, a mixture of points and board control, etc., we're going to add some Chaos Cultists. Now, the actual kit for Chaos Cultists doesn't actually come with enough. They haven't really got a proper kit, so these are the ones from Blackstone Fortress again, but when I run these, I tend to run them as the actual Blackstone Fortress ones, as the Servants of the Abyss, but you can just take them as Chaos Cultists. You'd need to get a few more, but the general thing you can do is just get some Necromunda kits or something like that and convert your own cultists. The reason I'm choosing cultists is because you don't really want them to be like utilized in a sense. You want them to sort of be cannon fodder or bait for things. Lure the enemy out. It's all tactical. It's all tactical. We're not really going to go too far into their use here because it's a bit different, as they're such a squishy unit and they don't dish out a lot of damage. If you've got the grenade launcher and the cannon, it does make them a little bit better, but just bear that in mind. With that said, that's going to be now roughly 1,000 points, so we're going to discuss the next 1,000 points, the step taking that up to a 2,000 point list. One thing I think you absolutely must get at some point is a Chaos Rhino. It's a very cheap unit for what it is, and the reason for that is you need something to transport all of these infantry units you've got that aren't really moving around so quickly. Just whack a Chaos Space Marine unit in this at the beginning of the game, and then just get them across the board, securing objectives. Another thing I wanted to discuss is, especially because you've got the Master of Possession, is get yourself a couple of Chaos Spawns, and the reason for that isn't so you can necessarily include them in your army, more so because you'll have a lot of powers and stuff that can actually get them, if you know what I mean. So you can transform enemy characters into these things and things. It's just useful to have the model for them there available so you can use it when you need to. Now the next thing you want to get is 2 boxes of Raptors. You could go with Raptors or you could go with Warp Talons. The Warp Talons are demon, so they would benefit from the Master of Possession, but I personally prefer the Raptors. That's just my opinion. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, but just get 2 boxes of these so you've got 10 of them, and that'll be a unit that's going to be running around the board really fast. Now the next thing that we're lacking is some really decent firepower, and for this I recommend getting a Defiler. Now these are, the model's a little bit outdated, but nice and big, battle cannon. So he's good in close combat, good at range, not a lot more to be said about him. So you've got a lot of infantry that can take objectives, but what I've actually found is they just die with Chaos Space Marines, especially at the minute on the old Codex, because everything's got 1 wound and everything else is designed to kill the 2 wound Marines, so it just kind of overkills all your Chaos Space Marines. So for that, I recommend getting some units that aren't going to die, and for that, I strongly recommend some Plague Marines. So these are the Nurgle sort of specialist Marines. Obviously you've got the Khorne, Tzeentch and Slaanesh ones too, being the Berserkers, the Rubric Marines and the Noise Marines. But these are really good for this purpose because they just don't die. In the Chaos Space Marine Codex, they still have the old Disgustingly Resilient rule, where they get the 5+ Feel No Pain, whereas in the Death Guard Codex, which has been updated for some reason before the Chaos Space Marine Codex, they have the new one, so where that reduces the damage rather than the Feel No Pain. So it's not quite as good, but in this current state, it's excellent. So, I mean, they're going to stay somewhat unkillable, so just keep them in the army. Now, the thing about Plague Marines is basically, they're not Terminators, are they? So get yourself some Terminators. I recommend 2 boxes of these again. Could just stick with 1, but I recommend 2. So you've got 10. Because a lot of things in this army come in boxes of 5, which is a little bit annoying because often that isn't actually enough to effectively do the job. So get yourself some Terminators. The thing about them is they can deep strike in, and then, so you're already 9 inches away from enemies. They're unkillable. They dish out damage like hell, and they're just really good for holding objectives like the Plague Marines. It's slightly different, so get yourself some of them. Now, I just want to quickly discuss demon engines. The Helldrake is a good option, big dragon. So he's a good option because that gives you that battlefield supremacy that you're kind of missing out on with all this infantry, because it's a very infantry heavy list. So get yourself one of them, and he's basically going to fly around and zoom about, kill things for you. And then finally for demon engines, I say finally, I recommend either one or the other, a Mauler Fiend or a Forge Fiend. So they're the same kit, which is why I say either that or that. So that's basically depending on whether you think you want more ranged firepower or more heavy hitting punches. It just depends on your personal preference and the playstyle you want to go for. They're about the same amount of points. I think this guy's like 5 more base, but there's a lot you can do with them, a lot of different options. Sort of like you could have this guy with 3 of these heads, which are like some plasma cannon type thing, or you could give him these auto cannons and 1 head. I think he can even have this normal head, and then this guy can have like some flamethrowers instead of these. So that's nice and useful, so get yourself one or the other, you could get both. Finally, because you've got all these demon engines, you probably want to get yourself a Lord Discordant. Now, what they do is, because demon engines, they shoot and hit like really badly, because it's like, if they do hit, it's hard hitting, but it's hard for them to hit because it's a 4+, so you've only got a 50-50 chance of actually landing any hits. Whereas if you've got a Lord Discordant, he can start making the demon engines hit on 3+, which is really, really useful. So I would just recommend getting yourself one of them if you want your demon engines to be a little bit more effective. With that said, that concludes this video. So I hope you enjoyed and hope this helps you start your Chaos Space Marine army. If you want to support us, follow the links in the description to our Patreon, where you can support us for a little bit of money every month, or follow the link to our Instagram, where you can give us a follow, some likes on some of our pictures. You can see some of the things we're working on, as well as video projects. So we'd really appreciate you checking those out. And until next time, that's going to do it, so I'll see you later.